You're, what is reality? Reality is much more than what people actually believe it is. Reality is really just that which you are aware of. And the reason why two people can grow up next door to each other and one becomes successful while the other one doesn't isn't because one person is better than the other. It's because of the things that they chose to pay attention to. And to prove it to you, I'll give you a little story here. I remember whenever I was getting ready to go play football out in college, I hired a coach to be able to help me get more explosive off the line. And essentially, during our first session, he had me run through my drills like I normally would, and he would only give me like small critiques around like me putting too much weight on my front foot or like taking a step back whenever I was coming out of my stance. So, like basic things that I had heard from other coaches. And because I had heard them before, I didn't really think much of them. And so the next time we met, he created an entire workout plan for me to go through. And I remember I was sitting there and 45 minutes into the session, I've done nothing but hamstrings and just leg lifts until I felt like my abs were about to rip in half. And I was like, yo, when do we start the real workout? And he was like, this is the real workout. And then he proceeded to explain that the reason why I wasn't getting more explosive out of the line was because my hamstrings were too tight and it wasn't allowing me to open my stride. And my core wasn't strong enough for me to be able to push a 300-pound lineman back into a quarterback like I needed to if I wanted to be successful within football. And the reason why I tell this story is because this is just a small example around how your awareness can keep you limited from being able to achieve the things that you want. And so, like, whenever I was growing up, I would only do the things that the coaches told me to do. So I wouldn't really spend extra time stretching my hamstrings or like any extra core because I felt like we did more than enough during our football practices. But because I wasn't training them the proper way, I was limiting myself. And by not being able to expand your reality, to be able to see the things that already exist within your world, to be able that allow you to be able to achieve the things you want, you stop yourself from being able to achieve them. And so this is a small version around how this works, but it does at least give you an example around how reality is. And so most people think that reality is that which can be perceived by your five senses. We've been taught that if you can't see it, smell it, taste it, hear it, or whatever the hell it is, it's not real. But that's not entirely true. Our brains process around 11 million bits of data per second. And for us to be able to function without overloading, our conscious mind distills it down into about 10 to 50 bits per second. And those 10 to 50 bits that your brain chooses to focus on dictate the reality that we experience. And another way to look at this is our eyes can only see 0.0035% of reality, which means the other 99.9965% is unseen to the human eye. So now do you see why it's crazier for you to believe that reality is limited to your five senses rather than believing that it's not? The true nature of reality. Reality is broken down into two planes. The physical plane, that which is manifest, and the metaphysical plane, that which is unmanifest. The physical plane is subject to the greatest change, and the metaphysical plane stays the same. Everything you can ever want already exists in the metaphysical plane. If you can want it, desire it, feel it, thrive for it, whatever the hell you want to say, it already exists in the metaphysical plane and has the potential to become material. And at the moment, it's just in an unmanifest section of reality or a section of reality that is unseen. And the way I define manifestation isn't some woohoo way where it's like creating something out of thin air. It's allowing yourself to become the version of yourself that's capable of seeing the things that are already there. So, for example, if you want a new car, a new relationship, or even being able to see your abs, the car you want already exists and the resources are already available for you to be able to get it. Your dream partner already exists and you can pull them at any moment, and your abs are already there. Like, you don't have to create abs, they're already there. You just maybe have a layer of fat that's covering it. And all of these things already exist. You just aren't aware of them yet because your level of consciousness isn't in alignment with them yet. This is why you can be stuck within your business or your dating life or anything like that, and as soon as you learn something new and you expand your awareness and you have the courage to implement it, you start to find opportunities that you couldn't see before. And I say the courage to implement it intentionally because a majority of the time people already know what to do to be able to get in shape. They already know what to do to be able to pull their dream partner. They already know what to do to be able to make more sales They just are too scared to be able to do it, or there's a part of them that stops them from doing it. And by having the courage to push past that fear or that initial resistance, you allow yourself to step into a new awareness or a new level of consciousness where the things that were already there are now able to be seen by you. And it's a part of your new reality. And so the evolution of life is something that I really want to be able to break down so you understand what happens whenever something goes from unmanifest to manifest. When a human is created, first there is nothing, then comes awareness, then energy, next the mind, and then finally the body. And that is the process to go from unmanifest to manifest. Everything that has ever been created went through some variation of this process. It started as nothing, then became something, and from nothing you can create anything. And for example, any business that's ever been created first started off as nothing. Then somebody became aware of an idea, and then they decided to put energy into developing that. And they started to create systems and processes to help them think through problems. And then they started to get new customers. And so it's a central process of going from unmanifest to manifest. Everything that has ever been created has gone through that process. And so whenever you are going about being able to create the reality that you want to experience, you can do it the easy way or the hard way. And a lot of people decide to do it the hard way because they don't understand that when it comes to creation, there's 3 levels to it. The lowest level is having or taking. You start to think of what can I have, what can I take, what are the things that people can give me, like different things like that. You think about yourself a lot. And then the next level above that is doing. And the last level and the highest level is going to be being. And most people focus on the lowest level and obsess over what they can have and what they need to do to be able to get it. But they do it out of their current level of consciousness and then go out and try and learn all the tactics and watch how to get rich quick videos in hopes that it will help them get there. And so, for example, whenever I first started my first ever business, it was an agency. I would sit there and I would spend hours just watching as many videos as I could around how to get clients, just like different tactics. And it got me my first couple clients, and then out of nowhere it just stopped working. All of my leads dried up, nothing was going right. And I was just like, I need to learn more tactics. So then I just continuously kept watching how-to videos. And then eventually I invested into a mentor. And this mentor was a blessing because instead of him making me focus on more tactics, he realized I already knew everything I needed to in terms of tactics. It was more of the person who was performing the tactics that needed to be upgraded. And so instead of him having me focus on my external, he had me focus on my internal. Because whenever he watched my calls, what he noticed was I wasn't coming from a frame of being able to help people. I was coming from a frame of like, what can I take? Like, I want this sale, I want your money. And so people could feel that. I was operating out of the lowest level of creation. And as soon as I flipped it and I was like, who am I being? I want to be somebody that can help people. I want to be able to help this person. As soon as I started flipping in that, I started getting more sales. And then as soon as I started getting more sales, he brought me into his company as a closer, and we even partnered together on his business. And it was because he helped me be able to develop my being. And whenever you develop your being, the doing and the having just follow. And so you have to first focus, if you really want to be able to do this the easy way, you have to focus on the person that you're being, and then everything else will fall in line after that. And so to give you an example around what this looks like, being is at the top. Again, it's the highest level of creation. Doing is going to be the middle, and having is the lowest level of creation. And again, it's like what I want, give me that, different things like that. Doing is just like, I have to do this. This is why people can work so hard but then not see any progress. It's because they're still doing, but they're doing it from a being that is lower than, like, an identity that doesn't align with the things that they want to create. So then they self-sabotage themselves, or they work on the wrong things, and they don't do the things they need to be able to create the things that they want to create. When people start their fitness journey, they are just like whenever I started my business. They focus on trying to find the perfect workout split or the best diet that will magically help them lose weight and put on 10 pounds of muscle overnight. But then they never stick to it because they're operating out of the lowest level. They haven't upgraded internally to be able to see the external shift that they want. In this program, I will give you everything that you need to be able to get in the best shape of your life. But unlike most coaches, I don't want you to rely on me to be able to keep you accountable to be able to maintain it. If you become the version of yourself that can do it with ease, you will be able to build your dream physique, and it will really just become inevitable. One of the most important questions that you'll ask yourself again and again is, who am I being? Because the person you are being will dictate the reality that you're seeing. Remember, everything that you want already exists. Your job is just to become the version of yourself that can see it.